God's blessed us very
It's not going with the children. Maybe she'll get the same.
We're getting started.
Come on.
Getting there.
Good.
Yeah, slowly but surely.
Say, hey,
And then of course the same time.
how are you? Good to see you. How are y'all doing? Awesome. You like it?
Yes.
Amazing. He always puts you where you need to be.
Yes.
Not without a doubt.
I mean, it's okay.
Where were we at when you left?
I think 17.
We're not moving very fast.
Wouldn't expect anything.
At least I've set expectations. Right? Well, good morning, everybody. It's time for us to get started. In a moment, I'm going to ask Jack to lead us in a word of prayer. We are in Leviticus chapter 25. There's a number of things that we're going to be talking about here. We'll get into an overall outline in just a moment. We got a couple of people walking in. Good morning. Okay, go ahead, Jack.
Yeah. Dear Lord, we thank you for this sunny morning that you've blessed us with. Thank you for all the many blessings that each and every one of us have, Lord. We thank you for this building, and we thank you for the people here. Lord, we also thank you for your word and all the knowledge in it. And Lord, as we are studying and reading these things, help us to understand it properly and according to your will. Also, Lord, help us to use the things that we learn in our everyday lives so that we can show your glory through our lives. Lord, please be with those who still might be on their way. And in Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. All right, so in the previous chapter, chapter 24, we talked about some additional duties of the priesthood. We talked about the lamp, the laws concerning the lamp inside the tabernacle, and we also talked about the table of showbread. All of these things present before the Lord, and we've talked about some significant spiritual implications concerning those things as well. But as we get into chapter 25, chapter 25 seems to me almost to be like a continuation of what we were talking about in chapter 23. Chapter 23 talked about, as we remember, these appointed times, these times of convocations. As we get into chapter 25, chapter 25 is going to be basically two different subjects here. The first several verses is going to talk about the sabbatical year. The sabbatical year, verses 1 through 7, and starting from verse 8 to verse 55 to wrap up the chapter, we're going to be talking about this year of Jubilee. There's a lot going on there. We're probably not going to be able to make it through this chapter this morning, but as we're talking about this year of Jubilee, we're going to be talking about things such as the definitions and descriptions, basic rules concerning this year of Jubilee, commands and promises. What what the Israelites were expected to do and what was going to be the result of their obedience concerning these things. The subject of Jubilee is also going to talk about concerning the selling of land. How are property transfers supposed to be happening among the Israelites? And that's going to include the selling of houses. And also in this chapter, we're going to deal with poverty, the subject of poverty, and dealing with the subject of slavery. First off, preventing slavery and how to handle it if somebody is indeed so poor, so destitute that they sell themselves to one of their fellow countrymen. What is to be done with them? How are they to be treated? What is to be done with them during this time, this period of Jubilee? So why don't we go ahead and get into it? And of course, as we wrap up the chapter 2, we're going to be talking about the poor again and the redeeming of the poor. Do family members have a responsibility toward one another concerning their financial situations? All right, so let's start talking about the first several verses here. Then the Lord spoke to Moses at Mount Sinai, saying, "Speak to the sons of Israel and say to them, when you come into the land which I shall give you, then the land shall have a Sabbath to the Lord. 6 years you shall sow your field, and 6 years you shall prune your vineyard and gather in its crop. But during the 7th year the land shall have a Sabbath rest, a Sabbath to the Lord. You shall not sow your field, nor prune your vineyard. Your harvest after growth you shall not reap, and your grapes of untrimmed vines you shall not gather. The land shall have a sabbatical year. All of you shall have the Sabbath products of the land for food, yourself and your male and female slaves, and your hired man, and your foreign resident, those who live as aliens with you. Even your cattle and the animals that are in your land shall have all of its crops to eat." All right, so taking a look at this, we've talked about the subject of this weekly Sabbath, but now what we're seeing is a different kind of Sabbath, the Sabbath that happens every 7 years. What were the Israelites to do when they entered into the Promised Land? Go ahead, Meemaw.
They would raise their crops and harvest them for 6 years. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
And then the 7th year would be a year when the land would lay in fallow, what do you call it?
Like fallow.
Anyway, it was to rest.
It
Because
was
that
to,
was good. It was to take a Sabbath. The land had a Sabbath.
yes,
And
and
it was good resources management because the land needs that. Having lived on the farm, I know my father would leave fields fallow from year to year sometimes, or take turns with a certain field, just a portion of his land,
yeah,
instead of all of it being fallow.
okay.
But sometimes the government will even pay farmers not to farm, and it gives the land a rest.
Anybody? Some of us might be old enough to remember it, but anybody that remember your history books during the 1930s?
The Dust Bowl?
Yeah, the Dust Bowl of the 1930s. Remember what had happened? What was it that caused that natural disaster?
They didn't take care of the land. They plowed it up and the wind blew it away.
That's right. All the and it wasn't just that the wind blew away; it blew away that topsoil, right? And part of that was was, these lands in Oklahoma and the sort, all of these plains that they had this grass that would grow, and it would have really deep roots, and the roots would basically hold the topsoil in place. And of course, when they would go to farm that land, they would get rid of all those plants that hold the soil in place. And not only that, year after year, they would use this soil, this land, and oftentimes they didn't let the land rest in order to regain its nutrients, and basically just turn to dust. And all it took was just the wind to come to blow it away and remove the topsoil. It just caused it was basically the largest man-made natural disaster in American history. I think that this sabbatical year, it's going to serve a dual purpose. I think that we already answered the question, what did God mean by a Sabbath for the land? Now, I think that it's important for us to notice that it's the land. It's the land that's to get this yearly Sabbath, not the people. However, what are the people to do during this seventh year when they're not planting, or when they're not sowing or reaping? Go ahead, Wendy.
Well, I think that this year is a faith-building year. It allows
Absolutely.
them to trust in God for His provision. It gives them rest. Farm work is extremely difficult. It's manual labor. The whole family is usually involved. So I think there's multiple facets to the benefits of this Sabbath year for them as well.
Yeah.
But primarily spiritual, because I think that, the trust that grows in trusting on God's provision during this year is great.
Right. And I agree. I agree. And because it is a Sabbath year for the land and not the people, obviously there's going to be work for the people to do, but their work that they're going to have to do is going to be greatly reduced during this time. But what about this year? Verses 5 and 6. Your harvest after growth you shall not reap, and your grapes of untrimmed vines you shall not gather, and the land shall have a sabbatical year. And all of you shall have the Sabbath products for the land of the land for food, yourself and your male and female slaves, and your hired man, and your foreign resident, and those who live as aliens among you. All right, so it says you shall not reap, you shall not get the grapes of the untrimmed vines. It's going to be a sabbatical year. But it also says all of you shall have the Sabbath products of the land for food, yourself and your male and female slaves. How do you reconcile verses 5 and 6?
Well, I think what that means is they just go out daily and just maybe get what they need, but they're not to harvest it, store it up, and all of that. But they are allowed to go out and gather, like as if the days and the times of manna, when they would just go out daily and get just enough what they need.
Yeah.
And on back, but not stored.
I tend to agree with you on that. I can't tell you how many times I've read this passage over, because it just seemed to me, it's like you got one verse that's saying don't get food, right. And then the next verse, it's hard looking at this from a 21st century context, and especially the fact that I'm not a farmer. I don't know anything about the agrarian culture that these individuals were living in. Well, what is Jessica saying? Well, what she's saying here is that during the sabbatical year, you're not to go and to reap and to reap a harvest. When you reap a harvest, what are you to do with that, with the fruit of the land? Well, you can use it for food, but also what? You can put it on the market. You can sell it to get other things, right? But during the sabbatical year, it seems that there is going to be food that's just left out there that's going to grow on its own.
Right.
That you can go and get the fruit of that land, but it's just to be for food only and for sustaining. But is there something else? As we get further into this chapter, we're going to see the result of the Israelites being obedient to what God says to do on the sabbatical year, that if they continue to be obedient up to the 6th year, what's going to happen for them? They're going to get a bumper crop, right? They're going to get a bumper crop that's going to be able to carry them. Is this would this be considered the Sabbath products? The Sabbath products a result of faithfully observing this sabbatical year. That's the food that they're supposed to eat. Yeah, maybe, but again, as I read these passages, I think that there's a vast difference between going and collecting what's out in the field just to be used for anything,
Right.
used for business,
Exactly.
used for trade, used for money, and used for food. But during the sabbatical year, you're not supposed to go out, and it's like a methodical thing to go out and to reap. You're just to go and gather whatever it is that you need for food. Because it says, even your cattle and the animals that are in your land shall have its crops to eat.
Exactly.
Right? So,
God
go
knows
ahead, Katie.
Well, in verse 5, it says, what grows on its own accord of your harvest, you shall not reap, nor gather the grapes of your untended vine.
Right.
Because like you said, it does go on to say later in the chapter, 18 through 22, talking about the 6th year being a bumper crop, but in 21 it says, it will bring forth produce enough for 3 years.
Correct.
Yeah.
So we
Right.
get them through that year that the land is to rest, and then that next year,
Mhm.
the 8th year, while the crops are growing again, so they're not gonna run out.
That's right. They're not going to run out, and this is why I struggled with these verses so much. But again, I think that all of this will also tie into verse 7 that says that even your even your cattle and the animals that are in your land shall have all its crops to eat. Now whether or not this is talking about this sabbatical crops, I don't know. But like you said, it could be talking about the produce of the sabbatical year, which is going to be what God has provided to the Israelites
Right,
the previous year.
Right,
That's right.
right.
That's right. Okay, I just thought that was a good thought question, because this is one that I struggled with, and even though I may not fully get it, fully understand it, these Israelites, of course, who are living it, would fully understand. Go ahead, Meemaw.
Well, I don't think it tells us if this is left for the poor to garner, but if the poor is hungry, they would surely eat from those fields
Sure.
and those vines.
Yeah.
But God has always taken care of the poor, and if Israel did everything He says do in 25, there wouldn't be any poor.
Right. And how is God going to take care of the poor? Through His commandments that He gives to the people. They must obey. And we're going to take a look at that later on in this chapter. So, and of course, I think that Wendy had also touched on this question of what sort of lessons can the Israelites learn from this practice. Go ahead, Adam.
So I think like what everybody's saying, they were not necessarily not harvesting, but they weren't harvesting in the same way that they were doing. Maybe it was some kind of communal, gathering that they had, where they were distributing it differently. Whereas like my land is not just my land, but it's free for anybody to gather. And I see this as more of like when you were saying a trust building year, but also relationship building, because everybody's working together. They're instead of focusing on planning and having the structured harvest, they are actually sharing more, and they're able to see like, wow, God is providing. We're not even doing the work, and it's still growing. It's still being, we have produce.
And not only that, it's another year. Every 7 years, the family's not out, working in the field. bringing in the harvest, all these sort of things, sun up, sun down, this is all we do is farming. Every 7 years, a family just gets time to rest.
Yeah.
To rest and spend time with each other, to spend time in worship. All of these things.
And I feel like also this may be a year where they have even more attention and focus on their livestock, where maybe now their livestock's being cared for in a way that they weren't before. They're, instead of worrying about the plants, they're able to, tend their herds.
Mhm.
So that it may be even a bumper year for their livestock.
Yeah. All right, so now we're going to get into the year of Jubilee. In verse 8, it says, "You are also to count off 7 Sabbaths of years for yourself, 7 times 7 years, so that you have the time of the 7 Sabbaths of years, namely 49 years. You shall then sound a ram's horn abroad on the 10th day of the 7th month. On the Day of Atonement, you shall sound a horn throughout all your land. You shall thus consecrate the 50th year and proclaim a release through the land to all its inhabitants. It shall be a jubilee for you, and each of you shall return to his own property, and each of you shall return to his family. You shall have the 50th year as a jubilee. You shall not sow, nor reap its aftergrowth, nor gather from its untrimmed vines. For it is a jubilee, it shall be holy to you, and you shall eat of its crops out of the field." Now again, it says you shall not sow, nor reap, nor gather, but then it also says you shall eat of the crops out of the field. And again, I think that there's a difference between these things. Meemaw, she grew up on an apple orchard, right? And so obviously any farmer that owns an orchard could go out and gather the fruit of his orchard and go and sell it on the open market. But at any time the family can go out into the field and just pick apples, right? You want an apple?
It wasn't just apples, it was pears, it was
Yeah.
cherries, it was peaches, you name it, and different kinds of each,
Yeah.
like yellow cherries, red cherries, different kinds of fruit. And we were just, so in the summer, when those were gathered, my mother would can, and we would have fresh fruit, or not fresh fruit, but fresh canned fruit all winter long, no additives.
Yeah, and was it nice to be able to just whenever you wanted to just go out into your field and just pick something,
That's
right?
why I'm 91.
Okay.
We got a good start.
All right. So when did the year of Jubilee begin? First off, what is Jubilee? What is Jubilee besides the D is king, right? I'm sure Adam knows. What Jubilee is and what it means. From your understanding, what would you say that Jubilee is?
It's a fresh start celebration.
Yeah, it is a fresh. It's a celebration, and the word Jubilee is kind of a weird word, but the word Jubilee is kind of a transliteration of the Hebrew word that indicates the blowing of a horn or the blowing of a trumpet, which of course is going to signify a new beginning, a new start. So when did the year of Jubilee begin? On the 50th year after what? After 7 Sabbaths. All right?
Sabbath years.
Yes, after 7 Sabbath years. Go ahead.
Does this mean that there was 2 years back to back?
You know, I actually had to draw a diagram for myself, right? And after I drew a diagram for myself, it made sense, right? What year of the years did Jubilee fall on? it fell upon a sabbatical year. So if you're, let's start the sabbatical years. The 7th year, or the 8th sabbatical year is going to be the beginning of the 7 sets, right? From the first sabbatical year is going to be considered the year of Jubilee. And you'll have that first year,
Oh,
2,
and
3, 4,
then
5,
you'll
6,
have
7.
A year of
And-
just a Sabbath.
And then the 50th year, it's going to begin, it's going to set, and the thing that caused the confusion in my mind was I was separating the year of Jubilee from these sabbatical years. And when I drew out the diagram for myself, it kind of made sense. And I know that causes a lot of confusion for a lot of people. But I want us to take note of the fact that when is the regular Sabbath? The regular Sabbath, every 7 days. The Sabbath years, every 7 years. The year of Jubilee, after every 7 years, you notice that things are happening kind of in a pattern.
727.
Where I mean, we got these days of consecration, things that happen during the 7th month concerning the Day of Atonement. Do you think that there might be some significance that we're starting to see kind of like a pattern here of things happening in 7s? Go ahead, Eric.
Yeah, the first portion that we just went over on the yearly Sabbath that they were to recognize. What we're looking at now is more of a Pentecost. So a yearly Pentecost, and then this is the set years going into Pentecost.
Yeah, and the fact that it happens in terms of 7s. I mean, do you think that there's some sort of significance in that? Go ahead.
I'm a little confused, so.
I'm a little confused too.
I may be complicated. After every 7 weeks, there's 49, and then that Day of Atonement, we're still in that 49th week, preparing for the 50th week, which is 8, right? And so.
Yeah.
And so we have the Day of Atonement, and so we're waiting until instead of the 7 weeks to make it 49, the 7th year, then we're waiting on the 8th year.
The 8th year is going to begin the next cycle.
Correct. Well, it says after 7 weeks, and then it says on the Day of Atonement, you blow the trumpet throughout the land, and you shall consecrate the 50th year. So in my mind, I'm thinking we're still in that 49th year, and they're blowing the Day of Atonement, consecrating the 50th year that's coming up. So where am I?
Well, that
What
just
am I
depends, are we
missing?
doing it in the beginning of the year or towards the end?
And also,
Because if it's towards the
Also,
end,
you know,
then
these-
at the
these-
end of
these
49,
beginnings of the
then
years-
it's 50 years.
these cycles that we're seeing are going to coincide with not dates on the calendar
Correct,
per se.
right,
I mean, there are dates on the calendar, right?
right.
The
Well, we're talking about
10th
harvest
day of the 7th, yes,
Talking about
it's all
harvest, yeah.
tied to a harvest cycle.
But it's still 7 years, 7 years and 7 weeks, and the 7th year, in the 7th year, then you're doing the Day of Atonement, and you're consecrating.
Can you draw me a diagram?
So you're consecrating
Yeah.
that 50th year that's coming up, because he said that,
Mhm.
if I'm missing it, then
Well,
I'll
the-
shut up and go home and study.
No. Maybe we should both come up with that.
Well, maybe they just have to
There-
wait until that to that Day of Atonement. That's the beginning date of that's when it will rest.
Well, then, if it's 7 years, 7 weeks,
Right.
49, on the Day of Atonement, on the
In the-
49th year,
Yeah,
on the 49th year, they're blowing it, consecrating that 50th year.
Yes.
Which in my mind would be not on the 49th year, it would be the 50th.
right, it's gonna begin the new cycle.
Right.
Then that's still the 8th, okay, I see what you're saying. I
Yeah.
see what you're saying.
Right.
It begins the new cycle.
Correct.
Every beginning of the new cycle, there's a jubilee. And then we start over, we count 7 years, and that's the end. And then the eighth year, which I'm thinking the 8th year is the first, is, you guys are saying the first year.
Yes,
Okay.
the first year of the
First-
7,
The first 7 cycle, or first,
The first year of the.
of the first 7 sabbatical year cycles.
there you
Again, you know, when I drew it, it kind of made sense.
go. Did you use
Right.
crayons?
It is just,
How many
but I
thousands,
want us to take a look at the pattern. We're going back to the pattern, okay?
how many thousands of years ago was that?
Okay.
You get to show us your drawing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Why is that not?
Well, we have a board right here.
Because it was hand drawn. It was hand drawn. Alright.
I think we get it.
Okay, all right. Which is the reason why I wanted to talk about this pattern of things being in terms of sevens, you know.
Well, 7
It-
is
I-
completion, I think.
I think that there's spiritual significance to that. I mean, it's just going back to the beginning of creation.
Creation,
You know,
7 days.
what happened on the 7th day?
He rested.
Right, and there's this sabbatical, you know, things in terms of 7. Oftentimes as you go through the scripture that is related to that of God, that of the divine. These patterns here that we're seeing, is not a result of something that Moses made up. You know, this was given to him by God. If you take a look at the book of Revelation, the book of Revelation, again, the number 7 is a very important number, that many things that are talked about in terms of, specifically in terms of 7, in terms of 10, is going to indicate things like that of completion, a full cycle. And sometimes throughout the book of Revelation, it talks about, you know, things in terms of 3.5 years. So many days in 3.5 years. So many months in 3.5 years. All these things related to half of that 7 to indicate something of a determinate time, something of an incomplete time. And I do think that there's significance in that we should pay attention to. So how was the year of Jubilee announced?
For the ram's horn.
Yes, the blowing of the horn, and what did it signal? What did it signal?
The beginning.
Right, the beginning of the Jubilee year, and what else did it signal?
To set this year apart as holy.
Liberty.
Yeah. Okay, look at verse 10. What's the signal? Each of you shall return to his own property, and each of you shall return to his family. That is a signal that this is what the people are supposed to do, and we're going to talk more about that.
There's a lot of money going on.
And again, you know, it says that you during this year you shall not sow nor reap its aftergrowth, nor gather in from its untrimmed vines. Why do you think the Israelites couldn't sow or reap during this year?
Well, they were traveling.
Yeah, and remember, it's also a sabbatical year. It doubles as a sabbatical year, so it is special. It's very special, and remember, you know, this is something that happens every 7 cycles of every 7 years. Yes. So depending upon, when you were born in this cycle, this could be a once in a lifetime event for many people. Go ahead, Eric.
It's important to look at the big picture. In the beginning of this chapter, it says when you get into the promised land.
Mm-hmm.
So they're well familiar with the Sabbaths. They're keeping the Sabbaths now, but all these new things are going to happen once they get into the promised land. So Moses and Aaron won't even participate in these things, but they still have to teach the Israelites about it.
That's right. That's right. Heard about that. So now as we get into verse 13, this year of Jubilee, we know what it is, when it's supposed to be. Now, in these verses, we're going to talk about some basic rules, some basic tenets. And what is the purpose of this Jubilee year? It says, on this year of Jubilee, each of you shall return to his own property. If you make a sale, moreover, to your friend, or buy from your friend's hand, you shall not wrong one another. Corresponding to the number of years after the Jubilee, you shall buy from your friend. He is to sell to you according to the number of years of crops. In proportion to the extent of the years, you shall increase its price, and in proportion to the fewness of years, you shall diminish its price. For it is a number of crops he is selling to you. So you shall not wrong one another, but you shall fear your God, for I am the Lord your God. So first off, what was everybody supposed to do in the year of Jubilee?
Return to their own land.
Return to his own land. Even land that had been sold to another. And this is going to be vitally important. First off, it's talking about the selling of presumably property to other people. There's going to be a principle here to not wrong one another. But what we're going to see here is that concerning land and concerning property, it seems to me that when an Israelite sells property to another, they're actually not selling the land, but they're selling the rights to the land. It's not like a lease,
It's a temporary lease.
right? You ever heard like a sharecropper? Somebody that might not own the land, but somebody that might work the land and he lives on it. It's literally owned by somebody else.
So he shares the crop.
But he shares of the crops. So by the selling of the land, it's kind of related to that. It's more like a long-term rental,
Right.
right?
Up to 50 years.
That's right. So concerning the pricing, and I might be jumping back and forth from selling to leasing, but I think in context of this Jubilee, this would be important for us to understand. When we're talking about the selling of land, we're not talking about the permanent transfer of the property here. Because what is to happen on the Jubilee year?
Everything gets put back to its original order.
Right.
Even
And
if
and
it's-
everybody goes back to that land. How was fair pricing for the land exercised?
Based on how long it was for the Jubilee.
Yes.
How many years? Yeah.
Right. That's what the pricing was set. You want to purchase a piece of land that's going to be yours to use for crops,
Yeah.
whatever.
So you're basically like, well, what year are
Everything-
we in? Yeah, what year are we in before?
The year of Jubilee is actually going to set the price for that land, and it's going to set it directly. What does that mean? If there's a longer period,
It's higher price.
it's going to be a higher price. But of course, as you get closer and closer to that year of Jubilee, the price is going to go down accordingly. So
Property
what?
value goes down.
Right. What's that?
Your property value goes down.
So what is the overall principle in these commands?
Not to cheat each other.
Yeah, right. Don't oppress one another. Don't cheat. Don't take advantage of one another in your transactions. Because why? Fear God.
Yeah.
Yes.
You're to be holy because I am holy.
Yes.
That's what God says.
Yeah, and that's treat people with fairness. Why?
He treats
Because you know, God himself he's watching, and not only that, he's the ultimate owner of the land,
Correct.
right? That's another principle that's being taught to the Israelites. You know, this land that you're on, you know, you consider yourself as sojourners in this land. What you have, you don't really own. Everything belongs to God, and you know what? You're not going to get to have it forever, because there's things are going to go back and forth. I mean, that's the same now. I mean, what in life do we really truly own? I mean, there's going to be some point in our life when we're going to die, and we're going to be leaving it to somebody else. You know, this is one of the things that Solomon was talking about. You know, I worked so hard in my life to gather up all these things, and now I'm gone. Now who's going to get it?
Yeah, who's going to get it?
Right.
Who's going to fight over it?
Right. The guy that was storing up barns for himself. You know, this very night, you know, your soul is required of you. Now who's going to get everything that you work for? You know, there's some spiritual principles being taught here. And of course, these are going to be basic rules. And the basic rule being presented for the year of Jubilee is during this year, if you have bought land from somebody else, you're to give it to its original owner, and the original owners are supposed to go back to that land. When the Israelites, and of course we'll get into this as we get into the book of Joshua, right? When the Israelites go into the promised land, all of the land was divided into the various tribes, right? Or into the various tribes. And the various tribes, of course, were divided into the various families and the various clans. This property that has been given to them is to stay in that
Area.
in that family, in that group of people. So what sort? I mean, we're talking about benefits too. What do you think would be another benefit? You know, thinking about, you know, every 50th year, everybody go home, right? What do you think would be a benefit to this? Go ahead, Adam.
I think it keeps the focus on the right things. A lot of times when we're, you know, looking at material possessions and improving our status in life and these things, there's nothing necessarily wrong with that, but if the focus is always on that, there's an imbalance. And so this helps remind us, like, this is just a temporary thing. We all, you know, not like we were saying, that everything is going back. So it keeps the focus on God, on God's provisions, on faithfulness, on relationships, rather than, you know, what so many people today are focused on. It's stuff, it's property, it's ownership, and this keeps that focus less on that and more on the eternal spiritual treasures.
Yes. And not only that, the benefits of community, the benefits of family. You know, those of us that have large families, you might have families spread all over the country, you know, and every now and then you might have a big family reunion. And that's one of the ways that I see this year of Jubilee, almost like a big family reunion. Get reconnected with your family. Get reconnected with community. And not only that, I think too that this is one of the things, another benefit that Adam had touched on. There's going to be an economic benefit too. all of this is about provisions for the people by God, okay? Every 50th year, there's not only a community reset, but think about it like this, it's gonna be like kind of like an economic reset too, right? The rich, the wealthy, may purchase land with an understanding that at some point, guess what? All that land is gonna go back to its original owner, and it's gonna go back to their original families. There's not gonna be this situation where the rich is going to be able to buy land, to buy property, be able to work that land, work that property, gain even more wealth, to buy even more property,
To monopolize.
right, and monopolize on these things, and then take that property, hand it down to their heirs. So you have this this one particular family that may own all the things, while the rest of the Israelites are struggling to get by because they don't have the means to harvest, to sow and to harvest themselves.
So one family can't hold all the power.
That's right. That's right.
That makes sense.
This
God
is-
is smart. God is good.
Yeah, absolutely. This was God's system.
Yeah, exactly.
This was God's
It's all
system.
very good. I mean,
There's so many benefits. Can you think what? This is something that I was thinking about. Can you imagine what it would be like in our country, in our culture, if this is something that the United States had practiced every 50 years? Do you think that we might be able to share in those same benefits? Granted, we're not under the law. You know, the Lord doesn't expect Christians to keep the Sabbatical years or the year of Jubilee. This is something that I should have taken some time to look at, to see how in modern Judaism, what the sabbatical year looks like in modern Judaism. In an agricultural, in an agrarian culture, we can see how that would look like from the scriptures. But thinking about these things, what sort of benefits would come about as a result of these sort of practices? And I think a practice like this, if it was ever, if it could be done, would just be a strengthening of community and a strengthening of the family. This is going to be a time when everybody comes together and gathers together with their own.
A debt-free country. A debt-free country.
Yeah,
A country.
yeah,
A debt-free Israelite.
yeah. That's right.
A debt-free country.
This is-
Country.
This is what I'm talking about. Just every 50th year, what we're seeing is a widespread economic and community reset.
Right, renewal of the land, renewal of debt.
It's a renewal,
of
yes.
family.
Yes.
renewal of everything.
It sounds a little woke to me.
Doesn't it?
Communism.
But that's not what this is about. There's communism in the sense that we share property in the sense that nobody owns anything. The government owns everything, and everything that is given is done by compulsion, by government force. That is by the gun. This is about community and about family, helping one another. What is done in the church? I see so many people online talk about this. The teachings of Jesus and the teachings of church. You really look at it. What he's doing is teaching socialism. No. What he's talking about is support of one another within the community, in our family, in our church family. That we take care of our own,
And the
right?
poor. And the
Yeah.
poor.
Yeah.
Not just
And-
the home.
And the poor.
And that's the epitome of love.
Right. All right. So go ahead.
Having a real estate background, this chapter is very interesting to me. How in the world are they gonna figure out what those crops are worth? And what are they using to buy it with? Lambs or goats or oxen? Or how do they determine the worth of those crops? crops and the amount of an individual's crop on a particular farm. And couple million people all moving at the same time, that's gotta be chaos.
Right, it's gonna be chaotic, but you gotta understand that this doesn't come into force until when? Until they,
Well, of course.
that's right,
Considering that.
Yeah.
That it's there.
but,
I can see a lot of chaos.
yeah. But, what,
We don't have any proof that Israel kept that when they got in the promised land. Obviously, they didn't.
okay, that was kind of a question I was gonna say for next week. I think that there's some passages that may indicate that it was kept, but or that suggest that it was kept. You're right. I'm not aware of any passages that.
Well, there's a lot of things that they stopped doing what they were supposed to be doing. And the
Yeah.
history says that throughout. There's so many things that they neglected, fell
Sure.
away.
It would take 100% obedience.
But going back to your question about the valuation of property, that's going to be based directly on how much crop that this land is able to produce. The same as any business today, right?
Well, now, today, they take
if you go to buy,
the elevator and they're weighed.
that's right.
And then they know exactly
You
what
know-
they got off of their land. But
Right,
they
and
didn't
you-
have that then.
That's right, but
That's true.
over, year after year, you can see a pattern of what the land is producing and base the valuation off of that. And it's just like any business today, you go to sell a business, right? And one of those things is, well, how much does this business produce? That's going to be directly related to
It's
the
gonna
value.
determine the dollar value of what they do produce.
Say again?
No, today it would be the dollar value, back then it would be the goats or the
Yeah, I don't know.
value. So there's a lot to be ironed out.
Yeah. Well, Adam had something to add.
Well, I was just gonna say, I think when we look at it through our 21st century lens, it seems like chaos, but really it's us trying to devise a fair way, and we're trying to work all those things out. But when we really look at like just trusting God and allow Him to sort it all out, like I don't think it would be as chaotic as we would assume, because everyone's just focusing on observing these things, and it's like everything else. When we just let go, we let God handle it, it all seems to work out. And so I think that in theory, it's going to just all work out. It's all going to iron itself out. When we try to hold on to control, hold on to these things, this is like the antithesis of what's the purpose of the Jubilee year was. It's supposed to be allow God to provide and work it all out.
Yeah. Okay, all right, well, I appreciate your comments. Lord willing, next week, we'll try to finish up this chapter on the year of Jubilee.